You know, the more you look at the Indiana stats, the more impressive this 4-0 start becomes. We know they dominated Illinois, but overall, through 4 games, how do you not have this team in the top 10 in the country? It's a travesty. We're going to go ahead and break down some of the numbers for the Indiana Hoosiers. Plus, we'll compare it with some of the things the Colts have been doing, which there's a lot of similarities between these two teams. Let's talk about it. It's a special Tuesday edition or Monday edition of the Sports Rush. How are you, everybody? I am Brett Rump, and make sure while you're connected, you are also clicking that subscribe button. You're giving us that thumbs up so that you can tell everybody you like this channel. And, of course, we always enjoy your comments. And if you can share us, that's even more powerful. So let your friends know the Sports Rush is alive and well here on YouTube. But how about the Indiana Hoosiers? It's amazing. I've been looking at these numbers, and I am so impressed. Not only the eye test when you watch them play, what they're able to do and execute, how they block, their blocking schemes, their offensive play calling. So many things that they are doing really well and at a very top level, especially for this point in the season. And then you go ahead and look at the numbers on paper, and they totally back up what we're seeing with the eye test. I mean, Indiana so far. Now, we're going to throw away that first game. I feel like that first game's a little bit of a mulligan because you had a lot of new faces out there. I think there were a little bit of anxious nerves. Fernando Mendoza is not going to look like he did in week 1 on a regular basis. That defense is not going to give up 70-some yard touchdown runs twice to the Old Dominion quarterback. I mean, yes, they've had some breakdowns defensively. Fortunately, not many. But the only way you score on Indiana is if they have a complete meltdown defensively. I mean, look at it. They give up those 2 touchdowns to Old Dominion, and then they give up a touchdown to Illinois where they had a blown pass coverage. Other than that, Indiana is not allowed a touchdown. You cannot get the ball up and down the field against this Indiana defense. They're great at the line of scrimmage. They have some dogs up there in that defensive line. And then you look at the linebackers led by Aiden Fisher. That's no question strength of Indiana. And then, of course, that secondary that's experienced, and a lot of those guys return. They're solid defensively. There's no question. And it's going to be a real challenge for Iowa to be able to get the ball up and down the field against the Indiana Hoosiers. I think the Hoosiers win this game comfortably because I see this game kind of like I saw Michigan State a year ago, that, hey, there's going to be a lot of emotion, and maybe emotion helps to keep Iowa in this game through perhaps a quarter or into the middle of the second quarter. But then Indiana, they're just too good. They just keep doing what they do. They're highly efficient offensively, and they're eventually going to pull away from the Iowa Hawkeyes. That's kind of an early pick for you. Here it is on Monday. We're already talking about a game that's not coming up until Saturday. But really what I wanted to talk about today was this Indiana demolition of the Fighting Illini of Illinois that came in as everybody's darling. I mean, did you see some of the college football pregame shows? Everybody picking the Illini, top 10 team in the country. And, all the ignorance that was out there, people that didn't watch Indiana. And I don't blame them for not watching. Indiana was playing a bunch of nobodies through the first 3 weeks of the season. Why would anybody care to watch? And so they didn't watch, but then they try to give you an expert opinion on the Indiana Hoosiers, and they're just plain wrong. I mean, I told you, if you watch this channel right here, I told you before the season, and I told you after the first game, this team is better than last year's team. And I still believe that. I think Kurt Cignetti found the holes he needed to fill. I think he's upgraded his ability to go out and get people in the portal. Who doesn't want to be part of an uprising in Bloomington? And they brought in some great players. The running backs, wow. I mean, those guys can really run. And then you look at the receiving core, and they've got 2 dynamic receivers, Omar Cooper and Elijah Surratt. Those 2 guys can go get it with the best of them. And then you got a quarterback that is almost pinpoint accuracy every single throw. and an offensive line that is given him the time and space to be able to find receivers. I mean, it's all working beautifully for Indiana right now. And who'd have thought that a couple of years ago when Indiana was dealing with a head coach that was more a head cheerleader than a head coach? Oh, he was a rah-rah guy, fired up, chest bumps, high fives, scream and yell and wave and get the crowd all energized. But he didn't know all the X's and O's. He couldn't run a football program. I mean, I think he can come up with a defensive game plan well enough, and he's probably in the type of job he needs to have, although things haven't gone well at Clemson since Tom Allen arrived. Remember, he left Indiana, went to Penn State. And then where'd he go from Penn State? Went to Clemson. And now he's on that staff with Dabo Swinney, where a lot of people think Dabo should just be tossed to the curb. I don't think that's going to happen with Dabo in Clemson, because Clemson is not an easy place to win. And you may be surprised I say that, because they're in the heart of the South, where there's plenty of high school football talent. But if you don't have the money, you don't get the players. And right now, that's the big question for Clemson, is can they afford to keep up with some of the high-profile programs like Georgia that's just down the road in Athens. And then you go into Florida, and you've got the Floridas, the Florida States, the Florida or the Miami of Florida. I mean, you got all these programs that are spending the big bucks. I mean, we know what Miami Hurricanes spend. Shoot, they were doing it, kind of breaking the rules a little bit, even doing it before NIL got structured. So let's talk about the Hoosiers, though, where they're at right now. First of all, they got a well-funded program. They've got a packed crowd. Unbelievable to see on a Saturday night. That crowd was energized. And yes, it was a record crowd at Memorial Stadium. But the thing is, I mean, you put 50-some thousand in that building, that stadium, and it's like having 90,000 at Ohio State. I mean, where the sound just kind of disappears up. Everything seemed to be headed toward the field with the atmosphere in Bloomington. Incredible atmosphere for a college football game. And a lot of times when Indiana didn't have that kind of atmosphere. But as I said, the stats really tell the story. I mean, it's unbelievable what Indiana's done offensively. 64 points per game over their last 3 contests. But they're also racking up the yards. 3 straight games, over 300 yards of rushing. 617 yards per game average over the last 3 games. I'll say that again for those that are a little slow. 617 yards per game total offense for Indiana. 17 of 28 on third down. 17 of 28 on third down. That's moving the chains. When you get backed up, you're able to get the chains to move. Those are backbreakers for an opposing defense. And that's what Indiana is doing. They're just ripping your heart out slowly. And the offensive efficiency is just unbelievable. But a big part of that goes to Fernando Mendoza, who's barely missed a pass over his last 2 weeks. 19 of 20 against Indiana State, and then 21 of 23 against Illinois. Completed 17 straight passes against the Illini. And now on the season, Mendoza, 14 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. 76.8% completion percentage. He's got an understanding of the offense. He has mastered the RPO game, where he gets a read on the wide receiver on that slant route, where he keeps an eye up and sees, should he give the ball off or should he throw it? And he's making good decisions and accurate throws. You do that in the RPO game, and you can have a lot of success. And right now, Fernando Mendoza is having that success. You've got to be fired up if you're an Indiana fan, because you are better than what the national pundits are ranking you. The pollsters, they haven't caught up with Indiana football yet. And part of the problem is because they started the season based on the assumption that Indiana was a one and done. Now, that happened under Tom Allen. If you remember the COVID year, and Indiana kind of broke through, but then they completely fell flat on their face, and they never got back off the mat. But that was under a different coach. Curt Cignetti's as good a coach as there is in the country. Now that Nick Saban is retired, Curt Cignetti might very well be the best college football coach in the country. I mean, there's a couple of guys I might put up there in the company. Kirby Smart may be somebody who I've got a lot of respect for. I think he's a pretty good football mind. But I'll tell you what, if I got to pick a team and pick one coach to win me one game, I'm taking Curt Cignetti. Love the game plan, love the confidence, love the discipline his teams play with, the execution. I just think Indiana scored the biggest home run you will ever see hit when they hired Curt Cignetti. And the fact that there were other schools that passed on him before Indiana got their chance, what do you think those schools are feeling right now? How about Cincinnati? When Luke Fickell left and went to Wisconsin, Cincinnati decided not good enough. Not good enough. Didn't have enough Power 4 experience. Well, when a guy can just flat out coach like Curt Cignetti, doesn't matter what level you're at. And a lot of people are always, talking about, oh, will he go to this school or that school? I believe him when he says, we're building the next great college football superpower here in Bloomington. Why would I leave? Because he may already be there. That's how good this team is. Now, they move up in the rankings 8 spots, so they start to get into the neighborhood of probably where they should be. I look at the rankings right now, and Indiana is now number 11. Last week, they were number 19 in the national rankings. That was a travesty. They were never the 19th best team in the country. 11 is still a little bit underrated. If I look at the rankings right now, you've got Indiana at number 11. Now, the teams above them, the 3 teams above them, I think Indiana's better than all 3. One of them is Texas. Yes, I think Indiana's a better football team than Texas. I watched Texas play Ohio State, and I'll take Mendoza over Arch Manning. That's going to be an interesting one when it comes time for the draft. Is Manning going to be in this year's draft? Does he have another year left at Texas? He may need to use it. Because right now I saw where Fernando Mendoza is now the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. But Indiana has Texas above them at number 10. At number 9 is Texas A&M. And number 8 is Florida State. IU, and IU. Better than all 3 of them. IU should be right now 8th. Now, I could see an argument for the teams that are above those positions. Oklahoma, they've got a marquee win. They beat Michigan, but they didn't beat them like Indiana beat Illinois. Oregon, and we'll find out because it's just a couple of weeks away from Indiana playing at Autzen against the Oregon Ducks. Georgia's number 5. LSU's number 4. Penn State is number 3. And, of course, we'll find out head-to-head with Indiana and Penn State late in the year. Miami's number 2, and Ohio State's number 1. Miami, the most overrated team in the poll, and they're not number 2. They're not. They're a good football team. They're a really good football team. But Florida stinks. Florida is not good right now. And Miami struggled with Florida for a good portion of that game. Man, you've got to be excited about the Indiana Hoosiers, and you've got to be excited about the Indianapolis Colts, who are doing basically nearly the same thing as Indiana. One is 4-0, one is 3-0. But the Indianapolis Colts have the best offense in the NFL, the highest scoring offense. In fact, 103 points through the first 3 games. You know how many Colts teams previously scored 103 points in the first 3 games? None. Peyton Manning did not do it. He had 100 in his first 3 games, I believe 3 times. And a couple of times it was 101. So the Colts are in rarefied air right now under Indiana Jones, Daniel Jones running this offense. But again, I come back to the skill position players, and I say, who in the league? And someone did give us a comment and said Baltimore, and they might be right. Baltimore may be the only team that rivals the skill position players, that group, in the entire American Football Conference. I'm not going to look at the NFC. I don't pay as much attention to the NFC. But in the AFC, I think right now, if you take quarterback, tight end, wide receivers, running backs, I think the Indianapolis Colts can pretty much line up against anybody in the AFC. Maybe Baltimore. They're pretty loaded. But Jonathan Taylor, the way he's running the football, the offensive line has been terrific too. Giving Danny Dimes or Daniel Jones, Indiana Jones, whatever you want to call him, and he deserves all the nicknames because right now the nicknames are all based on flattery. They aren't the insulting nicknames that sometimes you get when you don't play well. But Daniel Jones is getting a comfortable pocket, getting rid of the ball on time, and finding the right receiver more often than not. Alec Pierce has had what I think is his best year to date. Michael Pittman Jr., what a job he has done. And all of a sudden, you've got a quarterback that can get him the ball in a position where he can use the big frame and make catches. Tyler Warren, he's going to be the rookie of the year. There's not much doubt. He's the best rookie that's out there offensively. And the Colts have used him so many different ways. They've lined him up in the backfield as a fullback to be a lead blocker. They've lined him up at a wing. They've lined him up tight as a tight end. They've lined him up in a slot. They've lined him up out wide. They have moved him all over the place, trying to get favorable matchups. And Tyler Warren is going to continue to deliver. But the other thing he's going to do is he's going to attract attention. And when you get attention on Tyler Warren, now you've got guys like Pittman, Pierce, and Downs that are going to have more space to operate, more one-on-one coverage. Colts are in a good spot, and they've got a tough road trip coming up this weekend. I wouldn't be surprised if they lose just because of the length of the road trip. And just in the NFL, it's hard to win every single week. But I'll tell you this, I'm not going to be surprised if they win because I believe this team is for real. And even the best teams in the league are probably going to have 2-3 losses by the time it's all over. This might just be one of them because it's a difficult road trip against a good opponent and a very good quarterback. But I still believe that the Colts can go out there and get the job done. Love to hear from you tomorrow night. Any picks for the Fever? They'll take on the Las Vegas Aces game 2 of the best of 5. And I'll tell you what, the Fever pretty much wrap up this series. I really feel that way if they can win another one against Las Vegas because they'll be so deep into the heads of the Las Vegas Aces that I don't think the Aces will recover if they drop the first 2 at home to this Indiana Fever team. Remember what Becky Hammond said before this series started, that the Fever hasn't seen the real Las Vegas Aces. Well, guess what? The Las Vegas Aces are down 1-0, and this is not the real Indiana Fever. This is a group of players that have been brought together, filling roster spots, filling voids in the rotation, and they just kicked your butts, Las Vegas. And I'm not trying to get them fired up, but I am just pointing out the obvious. The Fever dominated in game 1. And so game 2 comes up tomorrow night. That should be a lot of fun. Once again, John Nolan joined us on our live show yesterday, and that video is posted on our channel. So if you haven't caught that, you can always go catch up with John Nolan and what he had to say as he joined us live from Las Vegas within just a couple of hours after the Fever won that game 1 yesterday. All right, I'm done. Monday Night Football tonight. Hope everybody enjoys it. Once again, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, and share this channel. And it would be a big help to us. And it's absolutely free for you to do that. And it's the nice thing to do. And here in Indiana, we like to do nice things for our neighbors. So if you can help me out, that would be much appreciated. We'll talk to you again soon.